Any man who barely sustains an armistice with himself has no right poking around an alien soul. Today I finished The Black Company, the first book in The Black Company by Glenn Cook, and this was really a mixed bag for me, and honestly, kind of a disappointment. Glenn Cook is a huge inspiration for some of my favorite authors, including Joe Abercrombie and Stephen Erickson. So going into this, I had my expectations probably unreasonably high because Glenn Cook is the granddaddy of grim dark fantasy, which is one of my favorite subgenres of fantasy. I just love it. I love First Law. I love A Song of Ice and Fire, and yes, I am counting as grim dark fantasy. And I love Malazan, and yes, I am counting as grim dark fantasy. A lot of grim dark stuff happens, all right? You can argue in the comments. Anyways, my point is this. Going into this, I had really high expectations because this should have been a home run for me. The Black Company, the pitch here is that the Black Company is a mercenary outfit who is hired by the lady, who just happens to be like the most evil woman to literally ever exist. And they are to put down this rebel group, which is led allegedly by the White Rose, who is the savior of all mankind. Kind of a big deal. So they're working for the most evil person in the world against the most righteous person in the world. And that premise for me is fire. That premise is awesome. That should work 10 out of 10 times. Unfortunately, The Black Company as a book kind of falls flat on its face, at least for me. Now, this is probably going to be maybe a more controversial opinion that I put out because a lot of people really do like this book and a lot of people really do like this series. And, this is, one of those ones where people could get sensitive. But for me personally, I just expected way more. I really did. And in pretty much every aspect of this story did I expect more. I expected more from the plot. I expected more from the characters. I expected more from the setting, and unfortunately, it just felt pretty shallow, actually. There's really no other way of describing this book and my experience with it besides shallow and disappointing. And while there were parts of it I liked, and I will talk about the things I liked and I didn't like, overall, it was a just unfortunate reading experience because I really wanted to like this. This really should work for me. This is in my wheelhouse and it just didn't quite get there. So first of all, probably my greatest complaint, which ties into all my other issues with this book, is the writing itself. Glenn Cook writes in a very dry, clipped way. And what I mean by that is that this is written from first-person perspective from the medic of the Black Company, and he's writing down his time with them and what he sees and the voices and all of that. And that concept, the way it is written, is very cool. It kind of reads like a Vietnam veteran's memoir from their time over there. That's what it felt like to me, right? So again, really should work, but the reason it kind of falls flat on its face is that Glenn Cook is constantly skipping around. He is constantly skimming over amazing ideas for world building, amazing ideas for plot points, amazing ideas for characterization and character moments, and just making everything really shallow with its writing style. Because Croker, the main character, the POV that we get, is attempting to kind of gloss over and whitewash the Black Company. He is trying to not get them out of their sins, but make them seem less terrible than they are. And obviously this whole writing scheme is done on purpose, but I didn't want that. I wanted the bloody details. I wanted the interesting world building. I wanted those characters to feel alive and real and morally corrupt, because that is what I was looking for in this, and it just doesn't work because the writing is constantly skipping around. It's constantly glossing over details. And, while there are a few moments where the plot shines or the world building shines or a certain character has an interaction with another character that I found, moving, or I liked something that Croker had written about the human soul or the world or whatever, it all feels kind of overcome by this very odd writing style. And again, this is done purposefully. And this is probably very much a me thing, but I just didn't like the way Glenn Cook wrote this. And I feel like if someone took this concept and wrote it in a style that I liked, I would have felt way, way better about this. But unfortunately, this is the book, and this is how I feel. The characters, for one, are really flat. They have some discernible personalities, some discernible parts of their psyche, whatever you want to call it, but it feels really flat, especially in comparison to stuff like First Law or Malazan. And I get it. This is the forerunner. This is the blueprint. This is the things that people build off of. This is the inspiration. But sometimes the inspiration is just as good, if not better, than the works it has been built upon. So going into this again, I wanted more, and I just didn't get it. Because, and this is what's really upsetting, the idea here is really, really, really cool. A bunch of morally corrupt mercenaries working for what is essentially Mega Hitler, like just like the most evil, diabolical person you can literally ever think of, like a necromancer Mega Hitler or Genghis Khan or whatever. That should work. Like that should work for me. And the vibes are immaculate, dude. The vibes feel like this was basically the equivalent of listening to your first like Black album, or like your first like death album, like death metal album. Like that is what it feels like, is like a black metal album, right? Like that is the vibe here. And for me, that really works because like I'm a metalhead. I like that kind of stuff, right? But it just doesn't quite fulfill the potential that is laid out in those vibes, because the vibes are way up here. I really like the general feeling of this. It feels very bleak, it feels very black, it feels very dark, but it feels like it's neutered itself. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It feels like the writing neutered the vibes, because there were so many moments where Glenn Cook could have really gone there, and so many moments where it was like, oh, that would have been really cool to see. That world building element, I would have really liked to kind of see that come to life. Or that plot point, I would have really liked to see more of that. Or those character interactions, I would have really liked to see more of. But it just feels incredibly glossed over. And unfortunately, that just didn't work for me. Like I wanted so much more from this. And I feel like, you know, if you go into this with the exact correct expectations, and maybe if you've never read a grimdark fantasy book and you know, you want to get into grimdark, this would be a good book for you. And I can see myself eventually coming back and trying, you know, more books in this series, because I have heard it gets better. But unfortunately, this one in particular, the first book in the Black Company, left me feeling really hollow. It felt like just a shallow attempt at grimdark fantasy, and unfortunately, I was left unimpressed, which is the worst thing a book can be for me, is unimpressive. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10, and we will see if I read another Black Company book.